The elevator lurched to a stop between the 14th and 15th floors. Metal groaned. The lights stuttered once, twice, then settled into a sickly flicker. Inside that cramped box, two security officers thought they'd cornered someone who didn't belong. A woman in scrubs. No makeup. Hair pulled back. The kind of person you'd walk past without a second glance. They saw tired. They saw quiet. They saw nothing. What they didn't see, what they couldn't have known, was that the woman standing against the back wall had once held a dying soldier's hand in Kandahar while mortars screamed overhead, that she'd stitched wounds by flashlight in a convoy under fire, that the last time someone tried to intimidate her, she was wearing body armor and a sidearm. They saw a nurse. She let them. And that was their first mistake. Before we go any further, I need you to do something. Stay with this story all the way to the end. I want to know how far this reaches. Drop a comment with the city you're watching from. Like this video if you want to see how this plays out. Because what happens next? You won't believe it until you see it. The Grandview Medical Tower wasn't the kind of building where people asked questions. 32 floors of polished marble, glass walls that reflected clouds, and a lobby that smelled like money and disinfectant. Doctors with German cars. Administrators with corner offices. Patients who never saw a bill because someone else always paid. It was the kind of place where your insurance card mattered more than your pulse. Sarah Connolly didn't belong there. Not according to the people who worked there. Not according to the security team that watched the cameras from a back room with stale coffee and too much time. She was a contract nurse, agency staff, brought in to cover gaps when the regular team couldn't handle the load. She showed up, did her shift, left. No small talk, no lunch in the break room, just work. Clean, competent, invisible. Exactly how she liked it. She'd been doing this for 3 years now. Different hospitals, different cities, always the same routine. Clock in, follow the chart. Keep your head down. Clock out. It wasn't what she'd planned. It wasn't what she'd trained for. But it was steady, quiet. And after everything she'd been through, quiet was enough. Tonight's shift had been a grind. 16 hours in the ICU. 2 codes. One family that wouldn't leave the hallway. A doctor who kept changing orders without updating the system. By the time she clocked out, her feet ached and her scrubs smelled like antiseptic and sweat. She grabbed her bag from the locker, pulled on her jacket, faded, military issue, older than most of the residents, and headed for the elevator. The lobby was nearly empty, a janitor mopping near the entrance, a security guard at the desk, scrolling through his phone. The lighting had that late-night quality, too bright and too cold. Sarah pressed the button for the ground floor and waited. The elevator chimed. The doors slid open. She stepped inside. She didn't notice the 2 men in the lobby turn and watch her. Didn't see them exchange a look. Didn't hear the one on the left mutter something into his radio. She just leaned against the back wall, closed her eyes, and waited for the descent. The elevator dropped 2 floors, then stopped. Hard. The kind of stop that isn't mechanical, the kind someone triggers manually. Sarah's eyes opened. The doors didn't. The panel showed 14, not the lobby, not anywhere she'd pressed. The lights flickered, once, twice, then held. She straightened. Her hand moved to her pocket, fingers brushing her phone. Old instinct. Always know where your exits are. Always know who's in the room. The doors slid open. 2 men stepped inside, both in uniform. Grandview Security. The taller one had a shaved head and a jaw that looked like it had been chiseled out of granite. The other was younger, softer around the middle, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. They didn't look at her like they were there to help. The tall one hit a button. The elevator stayed still. Locked. Sarah didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. The younger one looked her up and down. His mouth twitched, not quite a smile. Long shift? He asked. His voice had an edge, like he was testing something. Yeah, Sarah said, flat, neutral. You work here? The tall one cut in. He didn't wait for an answer. Show me your ID. Sarah reached into her jacket, slowly, pulled out the laminated badge clipped to her scrubs. Contract nurse, Grandview Medical. Her photo? Her name. Expiration date still 3 months out. She held it up. The tall one took it, studied it like he was looking for a forgery. Agency staff, the younger one said. Not a question, an accusation. That's right. What floor? ICU, third tower. You always work nights? Sometimes. Convenient. Sarah's jaw tightened. She knew where this was going. She'd seen it before. Different uniform, different city, same look. The look that said, "You don't belong here." The tall one handed the badge back, but he didn't step aside. "We've had reports," he said. "People wandering floors they shouldn't be on, taking things." "I haven't taken anything. Mind if we check?" It wasn't a question. Sarah's hand moved back to her pocket. This time she pulled out her phone, unlocked it, opened the voice recorder, hit record, slid it back into her pocket, screen side out. "You can check the bag," she said quietly. "But I'm recording this." The younger one's face darkened. "You can't do that." "I just did." The tall one's hand went to her bag. Sarah didn't stop him, didn't resist, just watched. He unzipped it, pulled out her stethoscope, a water bottle, a protein bar, a paperback with a cracked spine. Then his hand stopped. He pulled out something small, metal, worn, a dog tag. Not the kind you buy at a souvenir shop. The real thing. Stamped metal, chain dulled from years of wear. Connolly, Sarah J. O. P.O.S. U.S. Army. He stared at it, then looked at her. For a second, something shifted in his expression. Confusion, maybe doubt. Then he shook it off, tossed the tag back in the bag. "Fake," the younger one muttered. "Probably bought it online." Sarah said nothing. The tall one zipped the bag, shoved it back at her. "You need to come with us." "Why?" "We'll explain downstairs." "No," Sarah said, calm, steady. "You'll explain now, or you'll let me leave." The elevator was still locked. The younger one stepped closer, too close, crowding her space, trying to make her flinch. She didn't. "You think you're tough?" he said quietly. "You think that little recording means something?" Sarah met his eyes, didn't blink. "I think you've already made a mistake, and I think you're about to make it worse." The tall one hit the button. The elevator dropped. Fast. Sarah's stomach lurched. The floors ticked down. 12, 10, 8. She kept her breathing even. Hands loose. Ready. The doors opened on the ground floor. The lobby was brighter now. More people. A woman at the reception desk. 2 paramedics wheeling a gurney toward the ER entrance. A man in a suit talking on his phone near the vending machines. The tall one grabbed Sarah's arm. Not hard enough to bruise, but hard enough to control. "Come on." She didn't resist. Not yet. She let him guide her toward a side hallway, away from the cameras, away from the crowd. That's when she heard it. A voice. Sharp. Commanding. "Hold it." The grip on her arm loosened. The tall one turned. A third man approached. Older. Gray at the temples. Uniform different. Supervisor stripes on the shoulder. His face was stone. "What's going on here?" the tall one started. The supervisor cut him off, looked at Sarah. "Are you being detained?" "Apparently," Sarah said. "On what grounds?" The tall one hesitated. "Suspicious behavior. She's agency. We've had thefts. Did she steal something?" Silence. "Did she threaten someone?" Nothing. "Then why is she here?" The younger one stepped forward. "We found military gear in her bag. We think it's fake. She might be impersonating—" "Military gear?" The supervisor's eyes narrowed. "Show me." Sarah opened her bag, pulled out the dog tag, handed it over. The supervisor took it, turned it over in his hand, read the stamp. His expression changed. Not much, just enough. He pulled out his phone, dialed, waited. "Yeah, it's Phillips. I need a verification. Dog tag. Name Sarah J. Connolly. Service number." He read off the tag. "Army. Yeah, I'll hold." The lobby went quiet. Somewhere a monitor beeped. A door closed. A radio crackled. Phillips waited. His face didn't move. Then he spoke again. "Copy that." "Thanks." He hung up, looked at the 2 officers, then at Sarah. "It's real." The younger one blinked. "What?" "It's real. Active clearance history. Combat medic. Served in Afghanistan. Honorably discharged. This isn't fake." The tall one's face went pale. Phillips stepped closer. His voice dropped, cold, controlled. You just detained a veteran, without cause, without evidence, and you did it off camera. Sarah pulled her phone out, held it up. Not entirely off camera. Phillips took the phone, listened to the recording. 30 seconds. A minute. His jaw tightened. When he handed it back, his voice was ice. You too. Security office. Now. Sir, we were just... Now. They left. Fast. Heads down, tails between their legs. Phillips turned to Sarah. For a moment, he just looked at her. Then he nodded. Once. I'm sorry. Sarah slid the phone back into her pocket. I've heard worse apologies. This won't happen again. We'll see. She walked toward the exit. The automatic doors slid open. Cold air hit her face. The parking lot stretched out under yellow streetlights. Her car was in the far corner, old sedan, dented bumper. But it ran. She was halfway across the lot when she heard footsteps behind her, fast. She turned. The younger officer. No supervisor, no backup, just him. His face was red, hands shaking. You think you're smart? He hissed. You think you just embarrassed me and walk away? Sarah didn't answer, just watched, calculated. He stepped closer. I know people. I know how this works. You're nobody. You're agency trash. And that recording? It won't mean a damn thing when... He didn't finish, because Sarah moved. Not fast. Not violent. Just precise. One step forward. Her hand came up, flat, palm out. A combat medic's hand. Steady, unflinching. She didn't touch him, didn't need to. You're done talking, she said quietly. And if you take one more step, I'll make sure everyone hears exactly what you just said. He froze, stared at her. Then his radio crackled. Phillips' voice. Sharp. Officer Erna, return to base. Immediately. The younger officer's face twisted, but he stepped back, turned, walked away. Sarah watched him go. Then she got in her car, started the engine, and drove. She didn't go home, not right away. She pulled into a diner off the highway, ordered coffee, sat in a booth by the window, pulled out her phone. The recording was still there, clear, unedited. She saved it, backed it up. Then she opened her contacts, scrolled down, stopped on a name she hadn't called in 2 years. Malik, VA Legal. Her finger hovered over the screen. She thought about letting it go, moving on, finding another contract, another city, another quiet shift. But then she thought about the look on that officer's face, the way he'd grabbed her arm, the way he'd laughed at the dog tag, the way he'd followed her into the parking lot. She hit call. It rang twice. Connolly? Malik's voice, rough, familiar. Yeah. It's been a while. I need a favor. What kind? The kind that ends careers. Silence on the line. Then Malik laughed, low, almost a growl. Tell me everything. Sarah did. Every word. Every detail. When she finished, Malik was quiet for a long moment. You still have the recording? Yeah. Send it to me, now. Sarah did. Connolly? Yeah? They have no idea what's coming. She smiled, just a little. No, they don't. She hung up, finished her coffee, and drove home. When she walked through her apartment door, the adrenaline finally started to fade. Her hands shook, just a little. She sat on the edge of her bed, stared at the wall. The dog tag was still in her bag. She pulled it out, ran her thumb over the stamped letters. Some nights, she forgot what it felt like to wear it. Some nights, she wished she still did. Tonight wasn't one of those nights. Her phone buzzed, a text from Malik. Filed. This moves fast. Be ready. Sarah set the phone down, lay back, closed her eyes, and for the first time in 16 hours, she let herself breathe. The next morning, Sarah woke to 17 missed calls, 3 from the hospital, 4 from the security company, 10 from numbers she didn't recognize. She ignored all of them, made coffee, ate toast, checked her email. There was one from Grandview's HR department. Subject line, urgent, meeting required. She deleted it. Another from the agency she contracted through. Subject line, incident report, response needed. She deleted that one too. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Connolly, Miss Connolly, this is Director Hensley from Grandview Medical. I'd like to speak with you about last night. I'm sure you would. We take these matters very seriously. I'd like to assure you that... Save it, Sarah said. I've already spoken to my legal counsel. Anything you want to say, you can say to them. Silence. Miss Connolly, I don't think you understand the situation. I understand perfectly. 2 of your officers detained me without cause, searched my belongings, and attempted to intimidate me in a parking lot. I have it all on record, and I've already filed a formal complaint. We'd like to resolve this internally. Too late. She hung up. By noon, the story had spread. Not publicly, not yet. But inside Grandview, the whispers were already moving. The agency nurse who fought back, the officers who got caught. The recording no one was supposed to hear. Sarah didn't go back to the hospital. She stayed home. Waited. At 3 p.m., her phone buzzed. A text from Malik. They're scrambling, offering settlement. Don't take it. Sarah typed back. Wasn't planning to. Another buzz. Federal interest. Civil Rights Division asking questions. Sarah stared at the screen. Federal. That changed things. Her phone rang again. Different number. This time, she didn't recognize the area code. She answered. Sarah Connolly? A woman's voice. Professional. Clipped. Yes. My name is Agent Torrance. I'm with the Department of Justice, Civil Rights Division. I'd like to ask you a few questions about an incident at Grandview Medical Tower. Sarah sat down. I'm listening. We've received your complaint. We've also received the audio recording. We'd like to open a formal investigation. Into the officers? Into the facility, the security company, and the individual officers involved. Sarah's pulse quickened. What do you need from me? Your testimony, full cooperation, and patience. These things take time. How much time? Months, maybe longer. But I can tell you this, we don't open cases unless we're confident we can win. Sarah closed her eyes. I'm in. 3 days later, the first article dropped. Not a major outlet, just a local news blog. But it had the bones of the story. Veteran nurse detained by hospital security. Recording raises questions. By the end of the week, it had spread. Regional news picked it up. Then a cable segment, then social media. The recording didn't go public, not yet. But the details did. And people were angry. Sarah stayed offline, didn't read the comments, didn't watch the coverage. She'd seen this before. The outrage cycle. The hot takes. The people who'd defend anything if it meant being contrarian. She didn't care about any of it. She cared about one thing. The 2 men who thought they could push her around and walk away. They were about to learn what happened when you underestimated the wrong person, because Sarah Connolly had been underestimated before. In a field hospital in Helmand Province, when a captain told her she was too small to carry a litter, she'd carried 3 that day. In a briefing room in Germany, when an officer said women didn't have the stomach for trauma surgery. She'd saved his life 2 weeks later when an IED sent shrapnel through his chest. She'd been underestimated her whole life, and every single time she'd proven them wrong. This time wouldn't be any different. 4 weeks after the elevator, Sarah sat in a conference room in a federal building downtown. Malik was beside her, Agent Torrance across the table, 2 other officials she didn't recognize, a laptop, a folder, a recording device. We're going to walk through the events one more time, Torrance said. I want to make sure we have every detail. Sarah nodded. They went through it. Step by step, the elevator, the stop, the search, the dog tag, the parking lot, the threat, every word, every moment. When they finished, Torrance leaned back. The security company is claiming the officers were following protocol, that you matched a description from an earlier incident. What incident? Sarah asked. Theft, medical supplies, 2 weeks prior. And did I match the description? Torrance's mouth twitched, almost a smile. No, the suspect was male, 6'2", Hispanic. You're 5'6" and white. Sarah laughed, bitter, short. So they lied. Yes. And the hospital? Claims they had no knowledge of the detention until after the fact. They've offered a settlement, full reimbursement of legal fees, a formal apology, and termination of the security contract. What about the officers? Torrance's expression hardened. That's where it gets interesting. She opened the folder, slid a page across the table. Sarah read it. Her stomach dropped. Criminal charges? Unlawful detention, civil rights violation, falsifying a report, and assault. Assault? The parking lot. He threatened you, got within striking distance. That's assault under federal law. Sarah looked up. You're serious? Completely. When? Arraignment is next week, trial likely in 3 months. We're pushing for maximum penalties. Sarah sat back, stared at the page. For a moment, she didn't feel anything. Then it hit her. Not relief, not satisfaction, just exhaustion. I didn't want this, she said quietly. I just wanted to go home. I know, Torrance said, but they didn't let you, and now they'll pay for it. Sarah nodded, slowly. What do you need from me? Show up, testify. Don't back down. I won't, Torrance smiled. I didn't think you would. Sarah left the building an hour later. Malik walked her to her car. You okay? He asked. Yeah. You don't sound okay. Sarah leaned against the car, looked up at the sky. Gray clouds rolling in. I've spent 3 years trying to disappear, trying to be nobody, and now I'm the story. You were always the story, Connolly. You just didn't want to admit it. She looked at him. I hate this. I know, but you're doing the right thing. Doesn't make it easier. No, but it makes it worth it. The arraignment was fast. Both officers pled not guilty. Bail was set. They posted it within an hour. Sarah watched from the gallery. Didn't say a word, just memorized their faces, the way they stood, the way they wouldn't look at her. When it was over, she walked out into the cold. Cameras were waiting, reporters, microphones. She kept her head down, said nothing. Malik ran interference. By the time she reached her car, her hands were shaking. She drove home, locked the door. And finally, for the first time since the elevator, she let herself cry. Not because she was scared, not because she regretted it, but because she was tired. So damn tired. Of fighting. Of proving herself. Of being the person no one expected. She wanted to be invisible again. But that door had closed. And there was no going back. The trial date came faster than she expected. 12 weeks. 84 days of waiting, of phone calls from lawyers she didn't hire, of emails from advocacy groups she'd never heard of messages from people who wanted her to be their hero. She wasn't anyone's hero. She was just tired. The courthouse sat downtown, all concrete and glass, the kind of building designed to make you feel small. Sarah arrived early. Malik met her at the entrance, coffee in hand, suit pressed sharp enough to cut. He didn't ask if she was ready. He knew better. Media's already inside, he said. Sketch artists, couple of bloggers, no cameras allowed, but they'll be waiting outside after. Sarah nodded. She'd worn black slacks, a gray blouse, nothing flashy, no jewelry except the dog tag under her shirt. She kept it there. Close. A reminder. They passed through security, metal detector, bag check. The guards recognized her. One nodded. The other looked away. Inside, the hallway smelled like old wood and nerves. People clustered in small groups, whispering, waiting. Sarah spotted them immediately. The two officers. The tall one, Marcus Vaught, stood near the water fountain, arms crossed, jaw tight. The younger one, Danny Erna, sat on a bench, leg bouncing, eyes darting. Their lawyer stood between them, a woman in a navy suit, talking low and fast. Vaught's eyes found Sarah. He stared. No expression, just cold assessment. She stared back. Didn't blink, didn't flinch. Let him see exactly who he'd messed with. Erna looked away first. His lawyer noticed, put a hand on his shoulder, leaned in close, said something that made him go pale. Courtroom's open, Malik said. They walked in. Rows of benches. High ceilings. The judge's bench empty, waiting. Sarah took her seat behind the prosecution table. Agent Torrance was already there, flanked by two assistant U.S. attorneys. One was older, silver hair, reading glasses perched on his nose. The other was younger, a woman with sharp eyes and a notebook already half filled. Torrance turned. "You good?" "Yeah." "Remember what we talked about. Calm, clear, stick to the facts." "I know." The defense table filled. Vought, Erna, their lawyer, two paralegals, a jury consultant. They had money behind them. The security company was footing the bill, trying to limit the damage. Sarah had Malik and the weight of the federal government. It wasn't a fair fight, but not in the way they thought. The bailiff stood. "All rise." Judge Callahan entered. Mid-50s, black robe, expression that gave nothing away. Everyone sat. The room settled into a tense quiet. Callahan looked over the room, then down at the docket. United States versus Marcus Vought and Daniel Erna. Charges include unlawful detention, violation of civil rights under Title 18, filing a false report, and assault. How do the defendants plead? Their lawyer stood. "Not guilty, Your Honor." Noted. Prosecution, are you ready to proceed? The older attorney stood. "We are, Your Honor." Defense? "Yes, Your Honor." Then let's begin. The prosecution opened with the recording. The entire courtroom listened as Sarah's voice filled the space, calm and steady, asking why she was being detained. Vaught's voice, harder, colder, demanding compliance. The sound of her bag being searched. The dismissive laugh when the dog tag was found. Then the silence. The long, heavy silence before Erna's voice came through, low and threatening, in the parking lot. When it ended, no one moved. Callahan looked at the defense table. "Does the defense dispute the authenticity of this recording?" Their lawyer hesitated. "No, Your Honor." "Proceed." The prosecution called their first witness, Phillips, the supervisor who'd intervened. He took the stand, swore in, and answered every question with military precision. Yes, the detention was unauthorized. No, there had been no prior incident matching Sarah's description. Yes, the dog tag was verified as genuine within minutes. Yes, both officers knew they were in the wrong before they walked away. "And did you observe any threatening behavior from Ms. Connolly?" the prosecutor asked. "None," Phillips said. "She was calm, cooperative, professional." "And from the defendants?" Phillips paused, looked at Vought and Erna. They were aggressive, confrontational, and when they realized their mistake, they didn't apologize. They doubled down. On cross-examination, the defense tried to poke holes, tried to suggest Phillips had a bias, that he was covering for a fellow veteran, that his verification call could have been faked. Phillips didn't budge. He'd been in security for 23 years. He knew protocol. He knew the law. And he knew what he'd seen. The next witness was a digital forensics expert. She walked the jury through the metadata on Sarah's recording. Time stamps, geolocation data, audio signatures that proved it hadn't been edited or altered. The defense objected twice. Both times, Callahan overruled. Then came the hospital's head of security. Nervous, sweating through his shirt. He admitted the security company had a history of complaints. Nothing formal, nothing that stuck, but enough that HR had flagged it, enough that there had been meetings, discussions, warnings. "And yet you continue to employ them?" the prosecutor asked. "We were in the process of reviewing the contract." "For how long?" 6 months. 6 months of reviewing, and you did nothing?" The man shifted in his seat. "We were waiting for legal guidance." "Legal guidance on whether to stop employing people who were violating civil rights?" "Objection," the defense attorney snapped. "Argumentative." "Sustained," Callahan said. But the damage was done. The jury had heard it. By the end of the first day, Sarah felt hollowed out. She'd sat through hours of testimony, listening to people describe her like she wasn't in the room. The prosecution painted her as a decorated veteran, wrongfully targeted. The defense hinted she was difficult, combative, someone looking for a fight. Neither version felt true. She was just someone who'd wanted to go home. Malik walked her to her car. "You did good today." "I didn't do anything." "Exactly. You stayed calm, didn't react. The jury saw that." Sarah unlocked her door. "How long do you think this goes?" "Another week, maybe. Depends on how much the defense drags it out." She slid into the driver's seat. "I hate this." "I know. She drove home through traffic that crawled. The radio played something forgettable. She turned it off. The silence was worse. When she got home, she didn't turn on the lights, just sat in the dark, staring at the wall, feeling the weight of the day settle into her bones. Her phone buzzed, a text from Torrance. "Strong start. You're doing great." Sarah didn't reply. She set the phone down, went to the kitchen, made tea she didn't drink, stood at the window, watching the street below. A couple walked past, laughing. A dog barked. Somewhere, a car alarm went off and stopped. Normal life. The kind she used to have. The kind she wasn't sure she'd get back. The second day started with Sarah on the stand. She'd known it was coming, but that didn't make it easier. Malik had prepped her. Keep your answers short. Don't volunteer information. Look at the jury, not the defendants. She swore in, sat down. The chair was hard, the microphone too close. She adjusted it. The prosecutor stood, the older one. His voice was steady, almost gentle. "Ms. Connolly, can you walk us through the events of the night in question?" Sarah did, step by step. The shift, the elevator, the stop, the search, the dog tag, the parking lot. She kept her voice even, didn't let emotion bleed through. But when she got to the part where Erna followed her outside, her hands tightened in her lap. "And what did Officer Erna say to you?" "He said I was nobody, that the recording wouldn't matter, that he knew people." "How did that make you feel?" "Objection," the defense attorney said. "Relevance." "Your Honor, this goes to the emotional impact of the assault." "I'll allow it. Answer the question, Ms. Connolly." Sarah looked at the jury. Angry, but not surprised. "Why not surprised?" "Because I've heard it before." The prosecutor let that sit. Let the jury absorb it. Then he moved on, asked about her military service, her training, her deployments. Sarah answered. Helmand Province, Field Hospital, combat medic, 18 months, 2 Bronze Stars. She didn't say it like she was bragging, just facts, the way you'd list ingredients. "And after your service?" "I came home, got my nursing license, started working." "Why agency work? Why not a permanent position?" Sarah hesitated. This was the part she didn't like talking about. "I needed flexibility. I wasn't ready to stay in one place." "Because of your service?" Objection? Speculation. Sustained. The prosecutor nodded. No further questions. The defense attorney stood. She was younger than Sarah expected. Mid-30s maybe, blonde hair pulled back tight, smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ms. Connolly, you say you were calm during this encounter. Is that correct?" "Yes. But you started recording without informing the officers. Isn't that right?" "I informed them immediately after. But not before." "No." "So you were planning for a confrontation." "I was protecting myself." "From what? 2 security officers doing their job?" Sarah's jaw tightened. "From 2 men who stopped an elevator, searched my belongings without cause, and then followed me into a parking lot." The attorney's smile flickered. "You have military training, correct?" "Yes." "Combat training?" "I was a medic." "But you received combat training, self-defense, hand-to-hand." "Basic training, yes." "So when Officer Erna approached you in the parking lot, you were fully capable of defending yourself." "Objection," the prosecutor said. "Relevance." "Your Honor, this goes to whether Ms. Connolly genuinely felt threatened." Callahan looked at Sarah. "I'll allow it. Answer the question." Sarah leaned forward, looked the attorney dead in the eye. "I didn't feel threatened. I knew I could handle him. What I felt was disgust." The courtroom went silent. The attorney blinked. Disgust? That he thought I was easy, that he thought I'd fold, that he was stupid enough to follow me after everything that had already happened. "So you weren't scared?" "No, I was insulted." The jury shifted. A few nodded. The attorney's smile was gone now. She shuffled her notes. No further questions. Sarah stepped down. Her legs felt shaky, but she didn't let it show. She walked back to her seat. Malik leaned in. "You just won this case." She didn't feel like she'd won anything. The next witness was Voss. He took the stand in full uniform, like that would help. The defense built him up. 15 years in security, decorated military service of his own, Marine Corps, honorable discharge. A family man. The prosecution tore it down piece by piece. Officer Vaught, you stated in your report that Ms. Connolly matched the description of a theft suspect. Is that correct? Yes. And what was that description? Average height, wearing medical scrubs. Average height. Can you be more specific? Around 5'6", 5'7". Ms. Connolly is 5'6". The suspect was described as 6'2". Correct? Vaught shifted. I may have misremembered. You misremembered a 6-inch difference? It was late. You also stated the suspect was Hispanic. Ms. Connolly is white. Did you misremember that too? Objection, badgering. Sustained, rephrase. The prosecutor nodded. Officer Vaught, did you review the theft report before detaining Ms. Connolly? Silence. Officer Vaught, no. So you detained her without confirming she matched the description. We were being cautious. Cautious. Is that why you stopped the elevator between floors? We wanted privacy. Privacy. For what? To ask questions. Questions you could have asked in the lobby, on camera, with witnesses. Vaught's face reddened. We were doing our job. Your job is to detain innocent people? Objection. Withdrawn. The prosecutor stepped back. No further questions. By the time the defense rested, it was clear they had nothing. They'd tried to paint Sarah as confrontational, as someone looking for a payout, as a veteran using her status for sympathy. But the evidence didn't support it. The recording didn't lie. The metadata didn't lie. And Sarah hadn't lied. Closing arguments came fast. The prosecution hammered home the facts. Unlawful detention, civil rights violations. A veteran treated like a criminal. The defense argued overreach, claimed the officers made an honest mistake, that this was a case being blown out of proportion. The jury didn't look convinced. Deliberation took 4 hours. Sarah spent it in a conference room down the hall, drinking water she didn't want, staring at a wall clock that barely moved. Malik sat across from her. Torrance paced. Nobody spoke. When the bailiff came to get them, Sarah's heart kicked against her ribs. They walked back into the courtroom. The jury filed in, faces unreadable. Callahan took his seat. Has the jury reached a verdict? The foreman stood. We have, Your Honor. On the charge of unlawful detention, how do you find? Guilty. Sarah's breath caught. Malik's hand found her shoulder. On the charge of civil rights violation? Guilty. On the charge of filing a false report? Guilty. On the charge of assault? Guilty. The courtroom erupted. Not loud, but the shift was palpable. Reporters scribbling, Torrance exhaling, the defense attorney's face going pale. Vaught stared straight ahead. Erna's head dropped into his hands. Callahan banged his gavel. Order, sentencing will be scheduled for 4 weeks from today. Defendants will remain free on bail until that time. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down again. Sarah stood. Her legs felt numb. Malik pulled her into a hug. She didn't hug back, just stood there trying to process. Guilty. All counts. It was over. Except it wasn't. Because sentencing was still coming. Because Vaught and Erna were still free. Because she still had to walk out of that courthouse and face the cameras and the questions and the people who wanted her to be something she wasn't. Outside, the scene was chaos. Microphones, cameras, questions shouted from every direction. Malik ran interference, but they pushed close. Sarah kept her head down, said nothing, just walked. A reporter broke through, shoved a microphone in her face. Miss Connolly, how do you feel about the verdict? Sarah stopped, looked at the camera. For a moment, she thought about walking away. Then she spoke. I feel like justice was done. That's all. She kept walking, got to her car, locked the doors, sat in silence. Her phone was already blowing up. Texts, calls, emails. She turned it off, started the engine, drove. She didn't go home. She drove out of the city, onto the highway, into the open country where the houses got smaller and the trees got thicker. She pulled off onto a dirt road, parked, got out. The air was cold, clean. She walked into the trees, found a clearing, sat on a fallen log, and finally she let herself feel it. Relief, anger, exhaustion, all of it at once. She stayed there until the sun started to set, until the cold bit through her jacket. Then she walked back to her car, drove home. When she got inside, she turned her phone back on. 17 new voicemails. She deleted them all, except one. Malik. Connolly, call me. We need to talk. She called. He picked up on the first ring. Where are you? Home. You okay? Yeah. Liar. Sarah almost smiled. What do you need? Sentencing's in 4 weeks. Torrance wants to meet before then. Go over your victim impact statement. I didn't write one. You need to. I don't want to. Malik sighed. I know, but this is your chance. You get to tell them what this cost you, what they took. Sarah closed her eyes. They didn't take anything. Yes, they did. And you know it. Silence. Just think about it, Malik said. You don't have to decide now. Okay. She hung up, sat on the edge of her bed, stared at the wall. A victim impact statement. The idea made her skin crawl. She didn't want to be a victim, didn't want to stand in front of a courtroom and talk about her feelings. But Malik was right. They had taken something. Not her dignity, not her strength, but her invisibility. Her quiet. Her ability to just exist without being watched. And she hated them for it. 3 weeks passed. Sarah went back to work. Different hospital, different city. The agency found her a contract 2 hours north. Smaller facility, fewer questions. She kept her head down. Did her shifts. Went home. Nobody recognized her. Or if they did, they didn't say anything. She preferred it that way. But the trial followed her. Articles online, opinion pieces. Think pieces about veteran treatment, about security overreach, about women in male-dominated spaces. She didn't read them, didn't need to. She knew what they'd say. The sentencing date crept closer. Malik called twice a week, checking in, reminding her. She still hadn't written the statement, didn't know if she would. The night before sentencing, she sat at her kitchen table, blank page in front of her, pen in hand. She stared at it for an hour, then she started writing. Not what they expected, not some emotional plea, just the truth. What it felt like to be stopped, to be searched, to be dismissed, to be followed, to be threatened, to know that if she didn't have a recording, none of it would have mattered. She wrote for 2 hours. When she finished, her hand ached. She read it once, then folded it, put it in her bag. The next morning, she drove back to the city, back to the courthouse, back to the place where this had all started. The courtroom was packed, more people than before. Victims' advocacy groups, veterans' organizations, media. Sarah took her seat. Vaught and Erna were already there, both in suits now, trying to look respectable, trying to look sorry. Callahan entered. Everyone stood, sat. The air felt heavy. Before I proceed with sentencing, Callahan said, I'll hear from the victim. Ms. Connolly, do you wish to make a statement? Sarah stood, walked to the podium, unfolded the paper. Her hands didn't shake. She looked at Vaught, at Erna, then at the judge. I didn't want to be here, she started. I didn't want any of this. I just wanted to finish my shift and go home. But that's not what happened. What happened was 2 men decided I didn't belong, that I was suspicious, that I was less. And when they found out they were wrong, they didn't apologize. They threatened me. They followed me. They tried to intimidate me into silence. I've been in war zones. I've been shot at. I've held people while they died. And I've never felt as disrespected as I did that night. Not because they detained me, but because they looked at me and saw nothing. No service, no sacrifice. Just someone they could push around. I don't want your apologies. I don't want your regret. I want you to remember this. Every day you spend paying for what you did, because the next person you underestimate might not have a recording, might not have the resources to fight back. And they deserve better than what you gave me. She folded the paper, walked back to her seat. The courtroom was silent. Callahan nodded. Thank you, Ms. Connolly. He looked at the defendants, Marcus Vaught, Daniel Erna. You have been found guilty on all counts. Your actions were not a mistake. They were a choice to abuse your authority, a choice to violate the rights of someone who served this country. And now you will face the consequences. On the charge of unlawful detention, I sentence you each to 18 months in federal prison on the charge of civil rights violation, an additional 2 years. On the charge of filing a false report, 6 months to run concurrently. And on the charge of assault, 1 year, also concurrent. Total sentence, 3.5 years. No possibility of early release. Bailiffs, take them into custody. The gavel came down. Voss's face went white. Ernest started crying. Their lawyer stood, tried to object, but Callahan was already leaving. The bailiffs moved in, cuffed them, led them away. Sarah watched, didn't feel satisfaction, didn't feel relief, just a cold, quiet certainty that it was done. Outside, the media scrum was worse than before. But Sarah didn't stop, didn't answer questions, just walked. Malik caught up. You did it. Yeah. How do you feel? Sarah stopped, looked back at the courthouse, at the people spilling out, at the cameras, at the chaos, like I can finally disappear again. She got in her car, drove away, and for the first time in months, she didn't look back. But 3 days later, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then something made her pick up. Miss Connolly? A man's voice, deep, unfamiliar. Yeah. My name is Colonel Briggs. I'm calling from the Department of Defense. We need to talk. Sarah's blood went cold. Sarah pulled the phone away from her ear, stared at it, put it back. I'm sorry, who? Colonel David Briggs, U.S. Army Medical Command. I understand you recently concluded a federal trial. Her stomach dropped. How do you know about that? Ms. Connolly, your case made national news. More importantly, it flagged in our system. We need to discuss your clearance status. My clearance expired 3 years ago. Not according to our records. Sarah sat down. Her apartment suddenly felt smaller. I don't understand. Can we meet? In person. Tomorrow, if possible. I'm 2 hours north of the city. I'm aware. There's a VA office in Millbrook. I can be there by 1000 hours. Military time. She hadn't heard it in years. It hit different now. Fine. Bring your discharge papers, your DD-214, and any documentation related to your medical certifications. Why? Tomorrow, Ms. Connolly. He hung up. Sarah sat there, phone in hand, trying to process. Clearance status. Why would that matter now? She'd been out for 3 years. She'd done her time. She'd moved on. Except apparently the Army hadn't. She didn't sleep that night. Just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, running through possibilities. None of them made sense. At 0530, she gave up. Made coffee. Found her discharge paperwork in a box under her bed. The DD-214 was pristine, sealed in plastic. Honorable discharge. Medical specialty code. Commendations. She hadn't looked at it in 2 years. Seeing it now felt strange, like looking at someone else's life. The drive to Millbrook took 90 minutes. The VA office was a low brick building tucked behind a strip mall. Parking lot half empty. She walked in at 0945. The receptionist looked up. Can I help you? I'm here to see Colonel Briggs, Voss. Name? Sarah Connolly. The receptionist checked her computer, nodded. Conference room 2, down the hall, last door on the right. Sarah walked. The hallway smelled like disinfectant and old carpet. She found the door, knocked. A voice from inside. Come in. She opened it. The man standing inside was exactly what she expected. Mid-50s, gray hair cut regulation short, uniform crisp, ribbons on his chest. He extended a hand. Ms. Connolly, Colonel Briggs, thank you for coming. She shook. Firm grip. Professional. You didn't give me much choice. He smiled. Barely. Please sit. She did. He sat across from her. A folder lay on the table between them. Thick. Official. Sarah recognized the seal. Department of Defense. I'll get to the point, Briggs said. Your clearance didn't expire. It was flagged as inactive, but never fully terminated. Why not? Because your specialty designation carries a 15-year retention clause. You signed it when you went through advanced trauma training at Fort Sam Houston. Sarah's mind raced back. Fort Sam, the training, the paperwork. She'd been 23, eager, stupid. I don't remember that. Most don't. It's buried in the fine print, but it's binding. So what does that mean? Briggs opened the folder, slid a paper across. Sarah scanned it, her name, her service number, a block of text she didn't understand. Then she saw it. Reactivation eligible, priority status. You're joking. I'm not. I've been out for 3 years. And you're still within the retention window. Your trial brought you back onto our radar. We ran a review. Your medical certifications are current. Your psych eval from discharge was clean. And your recent actions under pressure demonstrated exactly the kind of composure we need. Sarah pushed the paper back. I'm not interested. You haven't heard the offer. Don't need to. I'm done. Briggs didn't move, just watched her, calm, patient. There's a situation developing. I can't give you details unless you agree to a non-disclosure briefing. But I can tell you this. We need experienced combat medics. Specifically, we need someone who can operate independently, someone who doesn't break under pressure, someone who's already proven they can handle hostile actors. Hostile actors? In the elevator, in the parking lot, in the courtroom. You stayed calm, you documented, you followed through. That's not common. Sarah stood. I stayed calm because I had no choice. That doesn't mean I want to do it again. Ms. Connolly, I said no. She walked out, didn't look back, got in her car, drove. Her hand shook on the wheel, not from fear, from anger. They thought they could just pull her back in, like she was some asset they could activate whenever they wanted, like she hadn't earned her discharge, like she hadn't paid her dues. She made it 10 miles before her phone rang again. She didn't recognize the number, answered anyway. What? Miss Connolly, this is Major Kara Simmons. I work with Colonel Briggs. I need you to listen. I already said no. I know, but this isn't about reactivation. Not exactly. Sarah pulled over. Then what is it? There's a medical crisis unfolding at a military research facility. Contamination event. Chemical exposure. Civilian contractors are involved. We need someone with trauma experience and civilian credentials to assist without triggering a public response. You have military medics. We do. But deploying them raises questions. Press over oversight. This needs to stay quiet. And you think I'll do it because I'm not active duty. I think you'll do it because people are dying. Sarah closed her eyes. Where? I can't say over the phone, but if you agree to the briefing, I can have transport to you within the hour. I haven't agreed to anything. I know, but you're still listening. That's something. Sarah wanted to hang up, wanted to drive away and never look back. But Simmons was right. People were dying, and she'd spent 3 years trying to run from the part of herself that couldn't ignore that. One briefing, that's it. Understood. Stay where you are. Someone will contact you in 30 minutes. The line went dead. Sarah sat in her car on the side of the highway, watching traffic blur past, wondering what the hell she'd just agreed to. 28 minutes later, a black SUV pulled up behind her, tinted windows, government plates. A woman got out, civilian clothes, short dark hair. She walked to Sarah's window, tapped. Sarah rolled it down. Ms. Connolly? Yeah. I'm Agent Reese, DOD Transport. If you'll come with me, we'll take you to the briefing location. What about my car? We'll have it moved to a secure lot. You'll get it back when we're done. Sarah hesitated. Every instinct screamed to say no, to drive away. But she thought about what Simmons had said. People dying, chemical exposure. She'd seen that before. Knew what it did. Knew how fast it could spread. Fine. She grabbed her bag, locked her car, got in the SUV. Reese drove without speaking. They headed south, back toward the city, then cut east onto back roads Sarah didn't recognize. 40 minutes later, they pulled up to a nondescript office building. No signs, no markings, just concrete and glass. Inside, Reese led her through security, biometric scan, metal detector, then down a hallway to a briefing room. Briggs was there, Simmons too. A woman in her 40s, sharp eyes, uniform pressed, and 2 others Sarah didn't recognize, one in a suit, one in fatigues. Miss Connolly, Briggs said, thank you for coming. Let's skip the pleasantries. What's happening? Simmons stepped forward, pulled up a screen. Satellite images. A facility in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by fencing, guard towers. This is Site 17, a contracted research facility working on chemical decontamination protocols. 72 hours ago, there was a containment breach. 3 personnel exposed. 2 civilians, 1 military liaison. They're symptomatic, respiratory distress, tissue necrosis. We've stabilized them, but they're deteriorating. Why not evacuate them? Because we don't know what they were exposed to. The lab records were corrupted in the breach. We need someone on site to assess, treat, and determine if it's contagious. You're asking me to walk into a hot zone without knowing the threat. We're asking you to do what you're trained to do. Sarah looked at the images, at the facility, at the people in the room. And if I say no, then we send in a military medical team, which triggers protocols, which means oversight, which means this goes public. And if it's contagious, that creates panic. So you want me to risk my life to keep this quiet? Simmons' expression didn't change. We want you to save lives. The secrecy is secondary. Sarah didn't believe that for a second, but she also knew the math. 3 people dying versus potential outbreak. It wasn't a choice. It was triage. What's my cover? Civilian contractor, medical consultant. You'll have full access to the facility and the patients. Anything you need, we provide. And if I get exposed? We have decon protocols, isolation units. You won't be abandoned. Sarah wanted to believe that, wanted to trust that they'd actually pull her out if things went bad. But she'd been in enough situations to know promises didn't mean much when the shooting started. I wanted in writing, full medical support, extraction guarantee, and hazard pay. Briggs nodded. Done. And when this is over, we're done. No more calls, no more retention clauses. You tear up whatever paperwork says you own me. Briggs and Simmons exchanged a look. We'll discuss it. No, we agree now. Or I walk. Simmons exhaled. Fine. You help us with this, we clear your file, completely. Put it in writing. We will. Sarah looked at the screen again. At the facility. At the people she'd never met who were dying because someone screwed up. She thought about walking away. About going back to her quiet life. Her anonymous shifts. But she knew she wouldn't. She'd already made the choice the second she answered the phone. When do I leave? Transport's ready now. You'll be on site in 3 hours. They gave her a duffel bag. Gear, hazmat suit, respirator, medical kit, everything military issue, everything she'd sworn she'd never use again. She changed in a side room. The suit felt wrong. Too tight, too familiar. She zipped it up anyway. The flight was on a military transport. No windows, just her and 2 other personnel who didn't speak. She tried to sleep. Couldn't. Just sat there, running through protocols in her head. Contamination, decon, isolation, symptom management. She'd done it before. In field hospitals where the enemy wasn't bullets but invisible toxins that ate through skin and lungs. They landed on a private airstrip, middle of nowhere, desert stretched in every direction. A convoy waited, 2 trucks, armed escort. She climbed in. They drove. 30 minutes of dirt roads and silence. Then the facility appeared. High fences, concrete bunkers, guard towers with spotlights. It looked like a prison or a tomb. They stopped at the gate. Security checked IDs, waved them through. Inside the facility was cold, sterile, everything white and metal. A woman in a lab coat met them at the entrance. Dr. Helena Voss, 50s, tired eyes, hands that shook when she held her tablet. You're the consultant? Yeah. Good, we're running out of time. Voss led her through the facility, hallways lined with locked doors, signs warning of hazardous materials. They passed a decon station, showers, chemical wash, disposal bins overflowing with contaminated gear. How bad? Sarah asked. Bad. Patient 1, civilian tech, has 3rd-degree burns across 40% of his body. Respiratory function at 60% and dropping. Patient 2, also civilian, is showing neurological symptoms. Seizures, tremors. Can't keep her stable. Patient 3 is military. He's the most stable, but he was closest to the source. We don't know if he's incubating something worse. What was the source? We don't know. The lab was working on multiple compounds. The breach destroyed the logs. We're flying blind. Sarah's stomach tightened. Flying blind. In a hot zone. With unknown exposure. This was worse than she thought. They reached the isolation wing, airlocked doors, negative pressure rooms. Voss handed her a tablet. Patient files, vitals, treatment logs, everything we have. Sarah scanned them. Patient 1, Jackson Rourke, 32. Chemical burns. Acute respiratory distress. Patient 2, Emily Tran, 29. Neurological decline. Patient 3, Lieutenant Marcus Hall, 35. Stable but symptomatic. She looked up. I need to see them. Voss hesitated. You'll need full hazmat, level A. I know. They suited her up. Full enclosure, respirator, triple gloves. She stepped into the airlock, the door sealed behind her. Pressure equalized. The inner door opened. The smell hit her first. Even through the suit. Antiseptic. Burnt flesh. Decay. She walked into the room. Patient 1, Rourke, lay on a bed, skin blackened and peeling, chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. Monitors beeped. IV lines ran into both arms. His eyes were open, barely. Mr. Rourke, I'm here to help. He didn't respond, just stared at the ceiling. Sarah checked his chart. Burns consistent with corrosive exposure. Likely alkaline, lungs compromised, kidneys failing. He had maybe 48 hours. She moved to the next room. Patient 2, Tran, was restrained. Arms strapped to the bed. She thrashed, eyes rolling, mouth open in a silent scream. Seizure activity. Sarah checked the IV. They were pumping her full of anticonvulsants. It wasn't working. How long has she been like this? Voss' voice came through the comm. 6 hours, started with tremors, escalated fast. Sarah studied the monitors. Heart rate erratic. Brain activity spiking. This wasn't just chemical exposure. This was neurotoxic. She moved to the third room. Lieutenant Hall sat upright, conscious, alert. He looked at her as she entered. You're new. Civilian consultant. How are you feeling? Like I inhaled battery acid. Any neurological symptoms? Tremors? Confusion? No. Just the breathing. Chest feels like it's on fire. Sarah checked his vitals. Stable, relatively, but his exposure was the highest. If he was incubating something, it would hit soon. What happened in the lab? Hall's jaw tightened. We were running a stress test on a new decon compound, heating it to see how it broke down. Something went wrong. The container ruptured. Vapor filled the room. By the time we got out, we'd all inhaled it. What was the compound? I don't know. Classified. We weren't told. Sarah's blood went cold. Classified. They'd sent her into a hot zone with an unknown classified chemical. No baseline, no antidote, no way to predict what came next. She left the isolation wing, stripped off the hazmat suit, decon shower, chemical wash, rinse, repeat. When she finally stepped out, Voss was waiting. Well, patient 1 won't make it. The burns are too severe. Patient 2 is deteriorating. Neurologically, she's gone. We're just keeping the body alive. Patient 3 is stable now, but if this is incubating, he's a ticking bomb. So what do we do? Sarah looked at her. You tell me what the hell they were exposed to, or I can't help. Voss's face went pale. I can't. Can't or won't. The compound is classified above my clearance. I've requested access. I've been denied. Then get someone who has access. I'm trying. Sarah grabbed the tablet, pulled up the lab logs. Most were corrupted, but fragments remained. Chemical formulas, partial entries. She cross-referenced them with her mental database. Years of training, years of field exposure. Then she saw it. A compound designation she recognized. VX adjacent, nerve agent derivative. You've got to be kidding me. Voss looked over her shoulder. What? This isn't decon research. This is weaponization. Voss said nothing. Sarah turned on her. You brought me into a weapons facility. You told me this was about decontamination. You lied. I didn't know. Bull, you're the site lead. You knew exactly what they were doing here. Voss's hands shook. I knew it was classified. I didn't know it was a nerve agent? Yeah, well, now you do. And now those 3 people are dying because someone screwed up playing with fire. Sarah walked out, found Briggs on a secure line. We have a problem. I'm listening. Your facility is researching nerve agents. The exposure is an accidental contamination. It's weaponized toxin, and you sent me in here without telling me. Silence on the line. Then Briggs spoke. Cold. Controlled. That information is classified. People are dying. I'm aware. So what's the play? We let them die to keep this quiet? We do everything we can to save them, but the compound doesn't leave that facility. Understood? Sarah's hand tightened on the phone. You son of a... Ms. Connolly, you agreed to help. So help. Find a way to stabilize them. We'll handle the rest. The line went dead. Sarah stood there, shaking with rage. They'd used her, sent her into a black site, dangled dying patients in front of her because they knew she couldn't say no, and now she was stuck. Because walking away meant those 3 people died, and staying meant being complicit in whatever the hell this place really was. She went back to the lab, pulled every file she could access, studied the compound fragments, cross-referenced symptoms. Rourke's burns, trans seizures, Hall's respiratory distress. They all pointed to the same thing: organophosphate poisoning, nerve agent exposure. The treatment was atropine, high doses. But they'd need it fast. She found Voss. Do you have atropine? Yes, standard stock. I need 10 vials, now. Voss hesitated. That's a massive dose. It's a massive exposure. Move. They prepped the doses. Sarah suited up again. Went back into isolation, started with Hall. He was the most stable, the best chance. She administered the atropine, watched his vitals. Heart rate spiked, then stabilized. Breathing eased. He looked at her. What was that? Something that might save your life. She moved to Tran. The woman was still seizing. Sarah pushed the atropine, waited. The seizures slowed, stopped. Her vitals began to normalize. Not perfect, but better. Then she went to Rourke. He was barely conscious. She administered the dose. His body jerked. Monitors screamed, then flatlined. No, no, come on! She started compressions. Voss ran in. They worked him for 15 minutes. Nothing. He was gone. Sarah stepped back, chest heaving, hands shaking. 1 out of 3. Not good enough. She left the wing, decon, shower, collapse against the wall. Voss found her there. You saved 2 of them. I lost 1. He was already gone. You know that. Sarah looked up. This place, what they're doing here, it's wrong. I know. Then why do you stay? Voss didn't answer, just walked away. Sarah sat there until her breathing slowed, until the anger faded into exhaustion. Then she stood, walked to the comms room, called Briggs. It's done. 2 alive, 1 dead. Acceptable losses. They're not losses, they're people. Noted, transport will extract you at 0600. And my deal? Your file will be cleared, as promised. I want it in writing, tonight. You'll have it. Sarah hung up, walked to her assigned quarters, a small room, cot, sink, nothing else. She lay down, stared at the ceiling, wondered how she'd ended up here, how a simple shift at a hospital had turned into this. Black sites, nerve agents, dead bodies. She thought about walking into that courtroom, about facing Vought and Erna, about thinking that was the hardest thing she'd ever do. She'd been wrong. This was harder. Because this wasn't about justice. This was about complicity. And she hated herself for being part of it. Her phone buzzed. A message. Encrypted. She opened it. A document. Her clearance file. Termination approved. Effective immediately. She read it twice, then deleted it. Lay back down. Closed her eyes. Tried to sleep. At 0530, Voss knocked on her door. Ms. Connolly, you need to see this. Sarah sat up. What? Lieutenant Hall. He's crashing. Sarah ran. Back to the isolation wing. Suited up. Rushed in. Hall was convulsing. Monitors screaming. Blood coming from his nose. His ears. What the hell happened? I don't know. He was stable an hour ago. Then this. Sarah checked his vitals. Hemorrhaging. Multi-organ failure. The atropine had bought time, but whatever was in his system was fighting back. Mutating. Adapting. She'd seen it before. In field hospitals, experimental toxins that evolved inside the body, becoming something worse. We need to intubate. Now. They worked fast. Tube down his throat, respirator online. But his vitals kept dropping. Sarah pushed more atropine, more stabilizers. Nothing worked. Paul's eyes opened, locked on hers, terrified. Then he flatlined. Sarah froze. Voss started compressions. Sarah just stood there, watching. Paul had been fine. He'd been talking. He'd been stable. And now he was dead. Because whatever they'd created in this place didn't care about treatment, didn't care about protocols. It just killed. Voss stopped, looked at Sarah. He's gone. Sarah pulled off her gloves, walked out. Decon, shower. She didn't feel the water, didn't feel anything, just numb. When she stepped out, Briggs was waiting. I heard. 2 dead, 1 alive. That's your acceptable losses. We did everything we could. No, you did everything to keep this quiet. There's a difference. Briggs' expression hardened. You're done here. Transport leaves in 20. Good. Sarah walked past him, grabbed her bag, headed for the exit. But as she reached the door, Voss called out, Wait. Sarah turned. Voss held out a USB drive. What's that? Everything I could pull from the lab, formulas, test results, what they were really doing here. Why are you giving this to me? Because someone needs to know. And you're the only one who might actually do something about it. Sarah took the drive, slid it into her pocket. They'll know you took this. Let them. Sarah nodded, walked out. The transport was waiting. She climbed in. They drove. Silent. Fast. Back to the airstrip. Back to the transport. She sat in the dark, feeling the weight of the USB drive in her pocket. When they landed, Reese was waiting. Your car's in the lot. Keys in the ignition. Thanks. Sarah walked to her car, got in, sat there, pulled out the USB drive, stared at it. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Connolly? A voice, distorted, mechanical. You took something that doesn't belong to you. Her blood turned to ice. Sarah's hand tightened around the phone. The parking lot was empty. Dark. Just her car under a single buzzing streetlight. I don't know what you're talking about. The voice didn't change. Flat. Mechanical. The USB drive in your left pocket. Dr. Voss made a mistake giving it to you. You're making a mistake keeping it. Sarah's eyes scanned the lot. No movement, no other cars. But they were watching. Had to be. Who is this? Someone giving you a chance. Return the drive. Walk away. Forget Site 17 ever existed. And if I don't? Then you become a problem, and problems get solved. The line went dead. Sarah sat there, engine off, heart hammering. She pulled out the USB drive, turned it over in her hand. Whatever was on here, they wanted it buried, which meant it mattered. She started the car, drove, didn't go home. Went to a motel off the highway, paid cash. No ID. The room smelled like cigarettes and mildew. She locked the door, chained it, pulled the curtains. Then she pulled out her laptop, plugged in the drive. The files loaded, hundreds of them. Lab reports, chemical formulas, test results. She started reading. The first file was dated 8 months back. Initial trials on a compound designated VX47. Organophosphate base, designed for rapid dispersal and delayed symptom onset. Perfect for covert deployment. The next file showed human trials. Not volunteers, prisoners. Detained personnel from overseas conflicts. No names, just numbers. Subject 14, Subject 22, Subject 31. The results were brutal. Respiratory failure, neurological collapse. Organ liquefaction. All within 72 hours of exposure. Sarah's stomach turned. This wasn't research. This was weapons testing. On people. She kept reading. Found internal memos. Communications between Site 17 and a DoD liaison. Someone named Corbett. Major General Theodore Corbett. The memos were clinical. Cold. Discussing acceptable mortality rates. Cost-benefit analysis of mass production. Deployment scenarios. One memo stood out. Subject to recent legal scrutiny. Recommend operational pause pending resolution. The date was 3 weeks after Sarah's trial ended. They'd known. Known she was flagged in the system. Known she might be called in. And they'd sent her anyway. She pulled up another file. This one recent. 48 hours old. A communication between Corbett and someone identified only as oversight. The message was short. Consultant Connolly completed site assessment. 2 casualties acceptable. Recommend immediate termination of consultant contract and file suppression. The response was even shorter. Approved. Implement. Sarah leaned back. They'd planned to bury her the moment she left the facility. The clearance termination wasn't a deal. It was a liability cleanup. She was supposed to disappear. Quietly, permanently. Her phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. A photo. Her apartment building. Taken from across the street. The message below it. You have 12 hours. Sarah grabbed her bags. Laptop. Drive. Left the motel room. Got in her car. She didn't know where to go. Couldn't go home. Couldn't go to Malik. They'd be watching him too. She needed leverage. Something big enough that killing her wouldn't make the problem go away. She drove to a 24-hour copy shop, paid cash again, used their computer, uploaded the drive contents to 3 separate encrypted cloud accounts, different passwords, different recovery emails. Then she sent a single message to an email address she'd memorized years ago. Investigative journalist. Someone who'd reached out after her trial, wanted to do a profile. She'd said no then. Not anymore. The message was simple. I have something you'll want to see. Meet me. She included a time, a place, a diner 2 towns over, public, cameras, witnesses. Then she sent copies of the files to 2 more contacts, a veterans advocacy lawyer she'd worked with during depositions, and Agent Torrance. She didn't trust Torrance completely, but the DOJ didn't answer to the DOD. If Torrance saw this, it would force her hand. Sarah deleted her search history, wiped the computer's temp files, left. The diner was an hour away. She made it in 45 minutes, parked in view of the entrance, waited. At 06:15, a woman walked in, late 30s, leather jacket, messenger bag. Sarah recognized her from the byline photo. Claudia Rhimes, Pulitzer nominee, specialized in national security exposés. Sarah got out, walked in. Rhimes was already in a booth, coffee steaming in front of her. Ms. Connolly? Sarah slid into the seat across from her. Thanks for coming. Your message was cryptic. I almost didn't. Sarah pulled out the USB drive, set it on the table between them. Everything on here is classified, highly. If you publish it, people will come after you. Rhimes picked up the drive. What's on it? Proof that a DOD black site has been conducting illegal human trials on chemical weapons. Proof that high-ranking officials authorized it, and proof that they're willing to kill to keep it quiet. Rhimes's eyes sharpened. You're serious. Completely. Why bring this to me? Because they threatened me. And because 2 people died on my watch because of what they were doing in that facility. I can't bring them back. But I can make sure it doesn't happen again. Rhimes pulled out her laptop, plugged in the drive, started scanning files. Her expression shifted. Shock, anger, disbelief. She looked up. This is real. Yeah. You know what happens if I run this? I know. They'll bury you. They're already trying. Rhimes closed the laptop. I need to verify, cross-reference, confirm sources. This'll take a few days. I don't have a few days. Then you need to disappear. Go somewhere they can't find you. Let me do the work. Sarah shook her head. If I run, they win. I need to face this. That's suicide. Maybe. But I've been dead before. I got better at it. Rhimes studied her, then nodded. Okay, but you need protection. Someone who can't be bought. I already sent copies to the DOJ. Good. Send more. Media outlets, advocacy groups. Flood the zone. Make it so killing you just makes it worse for them. Sarah pulled out her phone, started sending. By the time she finished, 20 different people had the files. Journalists, lawyers, activists, politicians. If she disappeared now, it would explode anyway. Rhimes stood. I'll start working this. Stay low. Don't contact me unless it's an emergency. She left. Sarah sat there, staring at her cold coffee. Her phone rang. Malik. Where the hell are you? Staying mobile. Torrance called me. Said you sent her classified files. Said you're in serious trouble. I am. What did you do? Sarah told him. All of it. The facility, the deaths, the drive, the threats. When she finished, Malik was silent for a long moment. You realize they're going to come at you with everything. I know. And you're doing this anyway. Yeah. You're insane. Probably. Malik exhaled. Okay, here's what we do. You come to my office, now. We draft a formal disclosure to every oversight body we can think of. Inspector General, Armed Services Committee. Whoever will listen. We make this so public they can't touch you without it blowing back. They already threaten me, Malik. Public won't stop them. No, but it'll make them think twice. Sarah checked the time. 0700. I'll be there in 2 hours. She hung up, started driving, made it 30 miles before she noticed the tail. Black sedan, tinted windows, keeping pace 3 cars back. She switched lanes. It switched. She took an exit. It followed. Sarah's pulse kicked up. She needed to lose them. Fast. She cut across 2 lanes, hit the next exit, took a hard right into a residential area. The sedan stayed with her. She turned left. Right. Left again. Weaving through streets. The sedan matched every move. Whoever was driving knew what they were doing. Sarah spotted a shopping center ahead, parking lot half full. She pulled in, parked between 2 larger vehicles, killed the engine, grabbed her bag, got out, walked fast toward the entrance. The sedan pulled in, stopped. 2 men got out, suits, earpieces, not cops, not military, private. Sarah kept walking, didn't run. Running drew attention. She slipped into the store. A big box retailer. Aisles stretching forever. She moved fast, cut through housewares, electronics, sporting goods, found the back exit. Employees only. She pushed through. Alarm blared. She didn't stop. Out into the loading area. Delivery trucks. Dumpsters. She spotted a fence, climbed it, dropped on the other side into an alley. Footsteps behind her, fast. She ran. The alley opened onto a side street. She flagged a passing cab, jumped in. Go! Now! The driver looked startled, but hit the gas. Sarah watched out the back window. The 2 men emerged from the alley. Stopped. One pulled out a phone. The cab turned a corner. They disappeared. Sarah gave the driver an address 3 blocks from Malik's office, paid, got out, walked the rest. When she reached the building, she checked over her shoulder. No tail, no sedan. She went inside, took the stairs. Malik's office was on the 3rd floor. She knocked. He opened immediately. Get in. She did. He locked the door behind her. You look like hell. They followed me. I lost them. For now. Malik sat her down, pulled up his computer. I've been drafting disclosures. We hit the Inspector General first, then Armed Services, then Judiciary. We flood every channel simultaneously. They can't plug all the leaks. They'll know it's me. They already know. This isn't about hiding. It's about making sure if something happens to you, the story doesn't die with you. Sarah nodded. Malik worked fast, typing, filing, sending. 20 minutes later, he sat back. Done. It's out there. Now what? Now we wait. They didn't have to wait long. At 0900, Sarah's phone rang. Briggs. Ms. Connolly, we need to talk. About what? You know what. You've made a serious mistake. I've made several. You'll need to be specific. The files you took from Site 17 are classified. Distributing them is a federal crime. So is conducting illegal human trials. Funny how that works. Briggs's voice hardened. You're in over your head. Then pull me out. Or admit what you're really doing and face the consequences. There are people above me who won't let this slide. Good. I'm looking forward to meeting them. She hung up. Malik stared at her. You just poked the bear. The bear was already awake. 20 minutes later, Agent Torrance called. What the hell did you send me? The truth. You realize what this means. If half of this is real, we're looking at multiple federal violations. Conspiracy, murder, weapons testing on human subjects. It's all real. I was there. I watched 2 people die. Torrance was silent. Then, I'm opening an investigation, full scope. but I need you alive to testify. I'm working on that. Work harder. These people don't play. She hung up. Sarah looked at Malik. We need to go public. Now. Rhymes needs time to verify. We don't have time. Malik pulled up his contacts. I know someone at a cable network, investigative unit. They move fast when the story's big enough. Call them. He did. 10 minutes of back and forth. Then he hung up. They'll meet us in an hour, downtown, their studio. They left through the back exit, took Malik's car. Different route, checked for tails, saw none. The studio was a glass tower in the center of the city. They parked underground, took the elevator to the 15th floor. A producer met them, young, sharp suit. He led them to a conference room. Mr. Rashid says you have something urgent. Malik slid a tablet across the table. We have evidence of illegal human experimentation by a DoD contractor. We have documentation, witness testimony, and we have proof of a cover-up. The producer scanned the tablet. His eyes widened. When can we air this? Tonight, Sarah said. We go tonight or we don't go at all. We'll need to verify. You verify by putting me on camera. I'll say it under oath if you want. The producer looked at Malik. Malik nodded. She's credible. Decorated veteran, recent federal case she won. This isn't some conspiracy theorist. This is real. The producer stood. Wait here. He left. Came back 5 minutes later with two others, a senior producer and a legal advisor. They grilled Sarah for 30 minutes. Every detail, every source, every claim. When they finished, the senior producer leaned back. If we run this, there will be blowback, legal threats, pressure from DoD, maybe worse. I know, Sarah said, but those people in that facility died because someone decided their lives didn't matter. If we don't tell their story, who will? The senior producer looked at the legal advisor. The advisor nodded. We can run it, but we need a disclaimer, and we need corroboration from at least one other source. I sent the files to Claudia Rhymes. She's working it now. Rhymes is solid. If she confirms, we're good. The senior producer stood. We go live at 6. Get her ready. The next 4 hours were a blur. Prep, makeup, wardrobe. They wanted her in something professional but relatable. She refused. Wore what she came in. Jeans, plain shirt, the dog tag visible under her collar. They set her up in a studio. Lights, cameras, a host across from her. Seasoned, calm. Someone who'd broken major stories before. At 5:55, they went live. The host introduced the segment, then turned to Sarah. Ms. Connolly, you've made some serious allegations. Tell us what you witnessed. Sarah did, step by step. The facility, the patients, the exposure, the deaths, the cover-up. She didn't hold back, didn't soften it, just laid it out. Raw. When she finished, the host asked the obvious question. Why come forward now? Because they threatened me. And because I'm tired of watching people die for secrets that shouldn't exist. The segment ran 12 minutes. When it ended, the studio went quiet. Then the phone started ringing. Tips, threats, media requests. Sarah sat in the green room, watching the monitors. The story was already spreading, social media, news aggregators, wire services. By 7 p.m., it was everywhere. Malik found her. You did it. Maybe. No, maybe. This is national. They can't bury it now. Sarah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, then did. Connolly. A woman's voice. Older, controlled. Ms. Connolly, my name is Senator Patricia Harmon. I chair the Armed Services Committee. I just watched your interview. Sarah straightened. Senator, I want you to testify. Formal hearing. We'll subpoena the files. Subpoena Briggs, Corbett, anyone involved. But I need you willing. I'm willing. Good. My office will contact you tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm assigning federal protection. Marshals, they'll be with you within the hour. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get ugly. Harmon hung up. Malik grinned. Senate hearing. You're going all the way. Sarah didn't smile, just stared at her phone, because she knew what came next. The DoD would fight. Corbett would fight. And they'd come after her with everything. The marshals arrived at 8, 2 of them, stone-faced, professional. They escorted her to a safe house, suburban neighborhood, nondescript. Inside it was sparse, functional. They set her up in a back room, told her to stay put. She tried to sleep, couldn't, just lay there, replaying everything, the elevator, the trial, the facility, the deaths. All of it led here, to this moment, where she'd finally stopped running and started fighting back. At 0300, her phone buzzed. Encrypted message. From Rhymes. Story dropping in 2 hours. Brace yourself. Sarah sat up, pulled up her laptop. At 0500, Rhymes's article went live. Front page. Major outlet. The headline, Black Site Horror. DoD contractor accused of illegal human trials. The article was thorough, detailed, names, dates, documents, everything Sarah had given her, plus independent verification. Rhymes had found former Site 17 employees, whistleblowers, people who'd kept quiet out of fear but were willing to talk now. One was a lab technician who'd been fired 6 months earlier for raising safety concerns. Another was a security guard who'd witnessed unauthorized transfers of detained personnel. A third was an administrative assistant who'd typed the memos between Corbett and Oversight. Each one corroborated Sarah's account. Each one added new details that made the story worse. The article included excerpts from the files. Chemical formulas redacted but described in clinical detail. Test results showing systematic exposure of unwilling subjects. Death records that had been falsified. And communications showing a deliberate effort to hide the program from congressional oversight. Rhymes had done her homework. The story was airtight. By 0600, it was the top headline everywhere. Cable news, radio, online. The DoD issued a statement, denied everything, called it misinformation, promised a full internal review. But the evidence was public now. The files, the testimonies, the bodies. At 0800, Major General Corbett was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. At 0900, the Secretary of Defense announced a full independent review of all classified research facilities. At 1000, the White House press secretary was asked about it in a briefing. The response was carefully worded. Concern. Commitment to accountability, but no specifics, no admissions, just damage control. Sarah watched it all from the safe house, numb, exhausted, vindicated but not satisfied, because Corbett on leave wasn't enough. Administrative review wasn't enough. She wanted trials, convictions, consequences, real ones, the kind that made sure this never happened again. Her phone rang. Torrance. We're filing charges today. Conspiracy to commit murder, unlawful human experimentation, obstruction of justice, and about a dozen other counts. Against who? Corbett, Briggs, and 3 civilian contractors who ran Site 17. We're also investigating the oversight contact. We think it's someone in the Pentagon. High level. How high? Can't say yet, but this goes deeper than we thought. Sarah closed her eyes. When do you need me? Grand jury convenes in 2 weeks. We'll need your testimony. Everything you saw. Everything you know. I'll be there. Good. Because without you, we don't have a case. Torrance hung up. Sarah sat in silence. 2 weeks. She could do 2 weeks. The days crawled. She stayed in the safe house. Marshals rotated shifts. She read, slept poorly, avoided the news as much as possible. Malik visited twice. Brought food. Updates. Moral support. Rhymes sent encrypted messages. Her article had generated hundreds of tips, follow-up stories. Congressional demands for hearings. The whole thing was exploding. On day 9, Sarah's phone rang. Unknown number. She'd stopped answering those, but something made her pick up. Connolly? A man's voice. Unfamiliar, smooth. Ms. Connolly, my name is Daniel Vickers. I'm calling on behalf of a mutual acquaintance. Who? Someone who wants to make a deal. Sarah's jaw tightened. I'm not interested. You should be, because what I'm offering could make all of this go away. Nothing makes this go away. People died. People die every day. What matters is whether their deaths meant something, whether they served a purpose. Are you serious right now? Completely. We're prepared to offer you a settlement, 7 figures, full medical benefits for life, and a guarantee that you'll never be contacted by any government agency again. In exchange for what? Your silence. You recant your testimony. Say you were mistaken, emotional, traumatized by your previous experiences. The charges get dropped. Everyone moves on. Sarah laughed, cold, bitter. You think I'm doing this for money? Everyone has a price, Miss Connolly. Not me. Then you're a fool, because we will destroy you. We'll dig up every mistake you've ever made, every bad decision, every moment of weakness. We'll paint you as unstable, a liar, someone looking for attention. Go ahead. I've been through worse. Have you? Because we can make this very personal. Your family, your friends, your reputation, all of it gone. Sarah's hand shook, not from fear, from rage. You're threatening me. I'm giving you a choice. Take the deal or suffer the consequences. Here's my choice. Go to hell. She hung up, threw the phone across the room. The marshals rushed in. You okay? No, but I will be. She called Torrance, told her about the call. Torrance's voice went cold. They're desperate. That's good. It means we're winning. Doesn't feel like winning. It will, when they're in handcuffs. The grand jury convened on schedule. Sarah testified for 4 hours, detailed, clinical. She walked them through every moment, the facility, the patients, the exposure, the deaths, the cover-up. When she finished, the room was silent. The foreman looked at the prosecutor. We've heard enough. The grand jury voted to indict all 5 defendants, Corbett, Briggs, and the 3 contractors. The charges were severe. Conspiracy to commit murder, unlawful experimentation, obstruction, falsifying federal records. Each count carried decades. The arraignment was scheduled for the following week. Sarah watched from the gallery. Corbett walked in wearing a suit. No uniform, no ribbons, just a man facing justice. His lawyer entered a plea. Not guilty. Of course. Briggs did the same. The contractors followed. The judge set bail at $5 million each. Corbett's lawyer objected. The judge denied it. All 5 were remanded to federal custody, no exceptions. As they were led away, Corbett's eyes found Sarah. He stared. No expression, just cold assessment. She stared back, didn't blink, didn't look away. Let him see exactly what he'd created. A witness he couldn't silence, a problem he couldn't solve. The bailiffs let him out. The gallery erupted, reporters, advocates, veterans groups. Everyone wanted a comment. Sarah slipped out the side door. The marshals got her to the car before the press could swarm. Back at the safe house, she collapsed on the couch. Malik called. You see it? Yeah. Indictments, all of them. This is happening. I know. How do you feel? Sarah thought about it. Didn't know how to answer. Empty. That's normal. You've been running on adrenaline for months. Now that it's over, the crash hits. It's not over. The trial hasn't even started. The hard part's done. You came forward. You testified. You stood up when everyone else was running. That's the part that mattered. Sarah closed her eyes. 2 people died, Malik. Rourke and Hall. I couldn't save them. No. But you made sure their deaths weren't for nothing. That counts. She wanted to believe that. Wanted to feel like she'd done something meaningful. But all she felt was tired. The trial was set for 6 months out. The prosecution needed time to build their case. The defense would drag it out as long as possible. Sarah went back to work. Different hospital, different state. The agency found her a contract on the West Coast, far from everything. She took it, kept her head down, did her shifts. Nobody recognized her. Or if they did, they didn't say anything. She preferred it that way. 3 months in, Rhymes called. You sitting down? Why? We found oversight. Sarah sat. Who? Assistant Secretary of Defense for Special Operations, guy named Lawrence Kessler. He's been running black site programs for a decade. Site 17 was just one of them. How many others? At least 4, maybe more. We're still digging. Does Torrance know? She's the one who gave me the tip. They're building a case against him too, but it's complicated. He's got connections, high-level protection. So what happens? We keep pushing, we keep digging, and we hope he makes a mistake. Kessler made his mistake 2 weeks later. He tried to access classified files related to Site 17, files that had been flagged by the investigation. The moment he logged in, Torrance's team knew. They raided his office that night, found emails, communications, evidence of his direct involvement in authorizing the program. He was arrested at his home the next morning, charged with conspiracy, murder, obstruction, the works. The news broke at noon. Sarah was in the middle of a shift when Malik texted her. They got him. Oversight is down. She stepped into a supply closet, leaned against the wall, let herself feel it. Relief, vindication, and something close to peace. The trial started in October. Sarah flew back. The marshals met her at the airport, took her straight to the courthouse. The prosecution's case was overwhelming. Documents, testimony, expert witnesses, former employees who'd turned on their bosses to save themselves. The defense tried everything, attacked Sarah's credibility, claimed she was unstable, traumatized, looking for attention. The prosecution tore it apart, showed her service record, her trial victory, her consistency across every testimony. The jury wasn't buying what the defense was selling. On day 12, the prosecution called Dr. Voss. Sarah watched her take the stand. Voss looked older, thinner, haunted. She testified for 3 hours, confirmed everything Sarah had said, admitted her own complicity, broke down twice. When she finished, the defense had nothing. They tried to cross-examine. She didn't budge, just kept saying the same thing. We knew. We all knew. And we did it anyway. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they came back, their faces were stone. The foreman stood. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, how do you find? Guilty. One by one, the verdicts came. Guilty. 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 Across the board, all 5 defendants, all counts. The courtroom erupted. Sarah sat motionless, just watched. Corbett's face went white. Briggs stared at the table. The contractors started crying. The judge banged his gavel. Sentencing will occur in 30 days. Defendants will remain in custody. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down. It was over. Outside, the press swarmed. Sarah ignored them. The marshals got her to a car, drove her back to the safe house. That night, she sat alone in the dark, thinking about Rourke, about Hall, about Tron, the only one who'd survived, thinking about all the others who'd died in places like Site 17, people with no names, no families, no one to fight for them. She'd fought for 2. It hadn't been enough to save them, but maybe it had been enough to make sure it didn't happen again. Sentencing came on a cold November morning. The courtroom was packed. Sarah sat in the front row. The judge read the sentences one by one. Corbett, 40 years, no parole. Briggs, 35 years. The contractors, 25 each. Kessler, 50 years. He'd gotten the worst of it. The architect of the whole program, the man who'd signed off on turning human beings into test subjects. When it was done, the bailiffs led them away. Corbett looked at Sarah one last time. She didn't look away. Just let him see her. Let him know she'd won. The press conference afterward was short. Torrance stood at the podium, thanked the team, thanked the witnesses, mentioned Sarah by name. Sarah stood in the back, didn't speak, didn't want to. When it was over, Malik found her. It's done. Yeah. You can go home now. I don't know where that is anymore. Malik put a hand on her shoulder. Wherever you want it to be. Sarah flew back to the West Coast that night, back to her apartment, her shifts, her quiet life. The story faded from the headlines, became history. Sarah went back to being invisible, the way she liked it. But 3 weeks after sentencing, a package arrived. No return address. Inside was a letter, handwritten, from Voss. It was short. Ms. Connolly, I know words don't fix what we did, but I wanted you to know I'm testifying in the cases against the other sites. 4 more facilities, dozens more victims. Because of you, they'll get justice too. Thank you for not letting us hide. H. Voss. Sarah read it twice, then folded it, put it in a drawer. She didn't need thanks, didn't want them. She just needed to know it had mattered, that Rourke and Hall and all the others hadn't died for nothing. Her phone buzzed, text from an unknown number. She almost ignored it, then opened it. The message was simple. Just a photo, security footage, time-stamped 3 days ago. The location? Site 17. After the shutdown. The image showed the lab. Empty. Dark. Then a figure entering, moving to a terminal. Typing. The angle shifted. The figure's face came into view. Sarah's blood turned to ice. It was Voss. Another message came through. She wasn't the only one who kept copies. Sarah stared at the photo, the timestamp, the figure at the terminal. Voss. Her mind raced through possibilities, none of them good. She tried calling the number. It rang once, then disconnected, blocked. She pulled up the photo again, zoomed in. The timestamp was clear. 3 days ago. After the trial, after the sentencing, after Voss had sent that letter claiming she was helping with the other sites. Sarah grabbed her laptop, started searching. Site 17 shutdown protocols. Federal seizure orders. The facility was supposed to be locked down. No access. No personnel. Guarded until full decommissioning. So how had Voss gotten in? Her phone rang. Torrance. Did you get a message? You too? Same photo, different angle. Someone wants us to know Voss went back. Why? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm pulling security logs from the facility now. If she accessed anything, we'll know. What if she took something? Like what? Samples, data, anything they could use to restart the program somewhere else. Torrance went quiet. I'll call you back. She hung up. Sarah paced her apartment. This didn't make sense. Voss had testified, had broken down on the stand, had sent that letter about helping with the other sites. Unless that was the play, get everyone to trust her, then disappear with the research. Sarah's phone buzzed. Text from the same unknown number. Another photo. This one showed Voss leaving the facility, carrying a small case. Medical transport container, the kind used for biological samples. The message below. Ask her what's in the case. Sarah called Torrance back. She took samples. I just got another photo. Send it to me. Sarah did. Heard Torrance typing on the other end. We've got a problem. Voss hasn't reported to her federal monitor in 48 hours. She was supposed to check in daily as part of her cooperation agreement. So she's running. Looks like it. I'm issuing a warrant now, but if she's smart, she's already gone. She's a scientist, not a criminal. She'll make mistakes. Let's hope. Torrance hung up. Sarah sat down. Tried to think like Voss. Where would she go? What would she do with those samples? The obvious answer was sell them. Foreign governments, private contractors, anyone willing to pay for a weaponized nerve agent. But Voss didn't strike her as mercenary. She'd been scared, guilty, broken. Unless that had all been an act. Sarah pulled up Voss's testimony transcript, read through it again, looking for cracks, inconsistencies, found one. Voss had claimed she didn't know the full extent of the program, that she'd only seen fragments. But the files Sarah had taken showed Voss's signature on authorization forms, procurement orders, test protocols. She'd known everything, and she'd lied under oath, which meant the guilt, the tears, the breakdown, all performance. Sarah called Malik. I need you to pull something for me. What? Voss's financial records, bank accounts, property, anything that shows where she might run. That's federal evidence. I can't just... Malik, she's running, and she's got samples from Site 17. If she sells those, everything we did was for nothing. Malik exhaled. Give me an hour. Sarah spent the time digging through Voss's background. Education, employment history, publications. Found an old research paper from 15 years back, co-authored with someone named Dr. Emil Rostov, Russian national, biochemist. The paper was about nerve agent antidotes, defensive research, or so they claimed. Sarah searched Rostov, found recent news. He'd been sanctioned by the U.S. government 2 years ago for working with a foreign military program. Now he was operating out of Prague, running a private lab. No oversight, no accountability. The kind of place where you could develop anything if the price was right. Her phone rang. Malik. You're not going to like this. Tell me. Voss has a secondary account, opened 6 months ago, offshore, Cayman Islands. She's been moving money into it, small amounts, nothing that would flag. But it adds up, about 200,000 so far. She's been planning this. Looks like it. There's also a property lease in her name, Prague, signed 3 months ago. Sarah's stomach dropped. Prague? Yeah, why? Because that's where Rostov is. Who's Rostov? Someone she used to work with. Someone who'd know exactly what to do with those samples. Sarah called Torrance, told her everything. Torrance's response was immediate. I'm contacting Interpol. We'll get her flagged at every airport, every border crossing. She's already gone. She wouldn't have gone back to the facility unless she had an exit plan. Then we trace her. Find out how she left. Where she went. I'm going to Prague. No, you're not. This is federal jurisdiction now. She used me, lied to me, made me think she was trying to fix this. And that's why you stay here. Let us handle it. You don't know her like I do. I don't need to. I have resources. You have anger. Anger gets people killed. Torrance hung up. Sarah sat there, shaking. Not from fear, from rage. She'd trusted Voss, had believed the tears, the guilt, the letter. And it had all been manipulation, a way to buy time while she executed her real plan. Sarah pulled up flight aggregators, started searching. Prague, last 48 hours, found 3 possibilities, 1 commercial, 2 private charters. She called the charter companies. Got nowhere. They wouldn't confirm passenger lists without a warrant. But one receptionist let something slip. I can't give you names, but I can tell you we had a medical transport flight to Prague yesterday. Special clearance for biological samples. What time? I really shouldn't. Please, this is a matter of national security. The receptionist hesitated. Departed at 1400, landed in Prague at 0600 local time. Sarah hung up. Did the math. Voss had been in Prague for over 30 hours. Plenty of time to hand off the samples. Plenty of time to disappear. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her. Connolly. Ms. Connolly, it's Helena Voss. Sarah's hand tightened on the phone. Where are you? Somewhere you'll never find me. Why are you calling? Because I wanted you to understand. What happened at Site 17 wasn't about cruelty. It was about necessity. We were developing countermeasures, defenses against threats you can't imagine. By killing people. By saving millions. Those test subjects? They were already dead, prisoners, extremists, people with no future. We gave their deaths meaning. You're insane. I'm realistic. And you? You're naive. You think shutting down one facility stops this? There are programs like Site 17 all over the world. Ours, theirs. Everyone's developing the next weapon, the next defense. We were just trying to stay ahead. So you stole the research. I preserved it, because someone will need it, someday. And when that day comes, they'll thank me. They'll hunt you. Let them try. The line went dead. Sarah immediately called Torrance. Voss just called me. We know. We traced it. Bounced through 6 servers, ended in Prague. We're working with Czech authorities now. She's not going to make this easy. They never do. Sarah hung up, sat there, thinking. Voss was smart. Too smart to stay in Prague if she knew they were tracing her. The call had been bait, a distraction, which meant she was already moving. Sarah pulled up her laptop, started mapping. Prague to where? Somewhere without extradition, somewhere with resources. Russia was obvious, but too obvious. China maybe, or somewhere smaller, a country that didn't cooperate with the US. She found a pattern. Private flights out of Prague in the last 12 hours. 1 to Dubai, 1 to Istanbul, 1 to Minsk. Minsk, Belarus. No extradition treaty. Russian-friendly. Perfect hiding spot for someone who didn't want to be found. She called Torrance. Check Minsk. Why? Because that's where I'd go. Torrance was silent. Then, we're on it. 2 hours later, Torrance called back. You were right. We got confirmation. Voss landed in Minsk 4 hours ago, met by a private vehicle, no manifest, no paper trail after that. She's in the wind. So what now? We keep pressure on Belarus, diplomatic channels, sanctions. But realistically, she's gone. They won't cooperate. They never do. And the samples? Probably already handed off to Rostov or someone else. We'll never see them again. Sarah closed her eyes. So she wins. No, she's a fugitive. She'll spend the rest of her life looking over her shoulder. That's not winning. It's not justice either. Torrance didn't argue, because they both knew Sarah was right. Sarah hung up, sat in the dark, feeling the weight of it. They'd stopped Site 17, locked up Corbett and the others, exposed the whole operation. But Voss had walked away with the research. And somewhere, in some other facility, someone would use it. The cycle would continue. People would die. And there was nothing she could do about it. Her phone buzzed. Text from Malik. Turn on the news. She did. The headline scrolling across the bottom of the screen made her breath catch. Fugitive scientist killed in Minsk traffic accident. Sarah turned up the volume. The reporter's voice was clinical, detached. Dr. Helena Voss, wanted by U.S. authorities in connection with a chemical weapons testing scandal, was killed earlier today in Minsk, Belarus. According to local reports, Voss was struck by a vehicle while crossing a street in the city center. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Authorities say there were no witnesses, and the driver fled. An investigation is underway, though officials have not released any suspect information. The news anchor moved on to the next story. Sarah sat frozen. Traffic accident. No witnesses, no suspects. Driver fled. That wasn't an accident. That was a hit. Someone had gotten to Voss, killed her, maybe for the samples, maybe to silence her, maybe both. Someone who didn't want her talking, didn't want her selling, didn't want loose ends. Her phone rang. Torrance. You watching? Yeah. This wasn't random. I know. We're investigating. But without cooperation from Belarus, we won't get far. They're already calling it a closed case. Accidental death. What about the samples? Gone. Whoever killed her took them. Or they were already gone before she died. Either way, we've lost the trail. Sarah leaned back, stared at the ceiling. So it's over. For now. And we just wait for the next Site 17. Torrance was quiet for a moment. No. We make sure there isn't one. The trials send a message. People are watching now. Oversight is tighter. It won't be easy to hide programs like this anymore. But it'll still happen. Torrance didn't answer, because they both knew the truth. It would happen. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow. But somewhere, someone would decide that the ends justified the means, that some lives mattered less than others, that progress required sacrifice, that national security demanded secrets, and the cycle would start again. Sarah hung up, stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city below, lights stretching to the horizon, millions of lives, most of them ordinary, invisible, just trying to get through the day, like she used to be, before the elevator, before the trial, before Site 17, before she understood that invisibility wasn't safety, it was just another kind of vulnerability. She thought about going back to that, to being nobody, to quiet shifts and anonymous work. Part of her wanted it, craved it, the simplicity, the peace. But another part, the part that had stood in that courtroom, that had faced Corbett, that had exposed the truth, knew she couldn't. Because now she knew what happened in the shadows, and she couldn't unknow it. Couldn't unsee the faces of the people who died. Couldn't unhear their stories, or the lack of stories, the silence where their voices should have been. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Connolly. A man's voice. Older, calm, measured. Miss Connolly, my name is Director Wallace. I oversee a division within the federal government that you've probably never heard of. What do you want? To offer you a job. Sarah almost laughed. I'm not interested. You haven't heard the offer. Don't need to. I'm done with black sites and classified programs. This isn't that. This is oversight, investigation, accountability. We're the people who make sure another Site 17 doesn't happen. Or when it does, we shut it down before it gets that far. And you think I'm qualified? I think you're exactly who we need. Someone who's seen the worst. Someone who didn't back down. Someone who understands what's at stake. Sarah was quiet, thinking. Ms. Connolly, there are programs out there right now that we don't know about. Facilities operating in the dark. People making decisions that should never be made. We can't stop all of it. But we can shine a light, make it harder, make them think twice, and we need people like you to help us do it. I'm not a cop. I'm not an investigator. No. You're a combat medic who became a whistleblower. You're someone who fought back when everyone else stayed quiet. That's more valuable than any badge or any training we could provide. Sarah looked out at the city. I'll think about it. That's all I ask. Call me when you decide. He gave her a number, hung up. Sarah saved it. Didn't call. Not yet. She needed time. space, to figure out who she was now that the immediate fight was over, who she wanted to be. She went back to work, finished her contract. The hospital staff threw her a small goodbye party, cake in the break room, a card everyone signed. She smiled, thanked them, felt nothing. They were good people. They meant well. But they didn't understand, couldn't understand. The distance between their world and hers was too vast to bridge with frosting and well wishes. She moved to a different city, smaller, quieter, a place where nobody knew her face, took a permanent position at a community hospital, the kind of place where people came in with broken bones and pneumonia, not nerve agent exposure, not chemical burns, not the kind of injuries that raised questions nobody wanted to answer. She liked it. The routine, the normalcy, the patients who thanked her and went home and lived their lives. But at night, alone in her apartment, she thought about Wallace's offer, about the program still running, about the people still suffering, about whether she could really walk away knowing what she knew, whether peace was worth the price of willful blindness. 3 months later, she made the call. Wallace answered on the second ring. "Ms. Connolly, I was hoping you'd reach out. I want to know more about what this job actually entails." "Fair. Meet me tomorrow. I'll show you." They met at a federal building in D.C. Nondescript, easy to miss. Wallace was older than she expected, late 60s, gray hair cut short, sharp eyes that missed nothing. He led her through security, down hallways that smelled like government coffee and old files, into a conference room filled with monitors, files stacked on tables, maps pinned to walls. "This is what we do," he said. "We track, we investigate, we expose, quietly when we can, publicly when we have to." Sarah looked at the monitors, satellite images, facility layouts, personnel rosters. "How many sites are you watching?" 17 active, another 32 we're investigating." Sarah's stomach turned. 17. "And those are just the ones we know about, the ones that left enough of a trail to find. So what do you need from me? Your expertise, your instincts, your ability to see what others miss, and most importantly, your willingness to do what's right, even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, even when nobody's watching." Sarah looked at the monitors, at the files, at the faces of people she'd never met who were probably going through what she'd gone through, being dismissed, threatened, silenced. She thought about walking away, about the quiet life she'd built, the safe life. But she also thought about Rourke, about Hall, about all the others who died because nobody had been watching, nobody had cared enough to look. "When do I start?" Wallace smiled, small, genuine. "Today, if you're ready." She wasn't ready. Not really. Didn't know if she'd ever be ready for what this would mean, but she nodded anyway. Because ready or not, this was who she was now. Someone who didn't look away. Someone who fought. Someone who refused to let the shadows win just because shining a light was exhausting. Over the next 2 years, Sarah worked cases across the country. Black sites, illegal testing, programs that violated every treaty, every law, every basic human right. Some she stopped. Facilities shut down. Personnel arrested. Programs dismantled. Some she couldn't. The evidence disappeared. Witnesses recanted. People died before they could testify. But everyone she exposed made it harder for the next one to hide, made it riskier, made the people running them think twice. She testified before Congress 4 more times, became a consultant for oversight committees, a voice for accountability in rooms where accountability was treated like a 4-letter word. People started recognizing her. Veterans groups invited her to speak. Advocacy organizations gave her awards she didn't want. Journalists called for quotes. She didn't want the attention. Hated it, actually. But she used it. Because attention meant scrutiny. And scrutiny meant fewer places for people like Corbett to hide. On the 3rd anniversary of her trial, the one that had started all of this, Malik called. "You see the news?" "Which part?" "Site 17, officially decommissioned, torn down. Nothing left but dirt and a chain-link fence." Sarah was quiet, staring out her office window at the city below. "Good. You okay?" "Yeah, just thinking about the people who didn't make it to see this. They saw it because of you. You made sure their deaths weren't invisible. That counts for something. Sarah didn't know if she believed that, but she wanted to, needed to, maybe. That night, she drove out to a memorial. A small one. Veterans Cemetery just outside the city. She found a bench, sat, watched the sun set over rows of headstones, thought about all the names no one would ever know, the test subjects, the prisoners, the people who died in places like Site 17 and were buried in unmarked graves or cremated and scattered like they'd never existed at all. She couldn't save them, couldn't bring them back, couldn't undo what had been done, but she'd made sure their deaths weren't invisible, weren't meaningless. And maybe that was enough. Or maybe it would have to be, because it was all she could give them. Her phone buzzed. Text from Wallace. New case, potential facility in Nevada. Need your assessment. Files attached. Sarah looked at the message, then at the headstones, then back at the message. She typed a response. Send me the files. I'll review tonight. She stood, walked back to her car, started the engine. She didn't know where this road ended, didn't know if it ever would. But she knew she couldn't stop walking it, because somewhere, right now, someone was being dismissed, underestimated, treated like they didn't matter, like their life was expendable, like their voice didn't count. And when they decided to fight back, if they decided to fight back, they'd need someone who understood, someone who'd been there, someone who knew that being underestimated wasn't a weakness. It was a weapon, and Sarah Connolly had learned how to use it. 5 years after the elevator, 5 years after 2 security officers had made the mistake of thinking a tired nurse in scrubs was nobody, Sarah stood in a different courtroom, different state, different case, but the same fight. A military contractor accused of illegal testing, a whistleblower who'd been threatened into silence, told to forget what they'd seen, told their career would be destroyed if they spoke up. Until Sarah showed up. She'd spent 3 months building the case, gathering evidence, protecting witnesses, making sure this time the truth couldn't be buried. Now she sat in the gallery watching the verdict come in. Guilty. All counts. The whistleblower, a young airman named Torres, turned and looked at her, eyes wet, relief and disbelief fighting for space on his face. He nodded. Sarah nodded back. After the trial, Torres found her in the hallway outside the courtroom, people streaming past, lawyers packing briefcases, reporters shouting questions. Thank you, he said, voice rough, for believing me, for helping me when nobody else would. You did the hard part. You spoke up because you showed me it was possible, that people like us, people they think don't matter, we can fight back. We can win. Sarah didn't know what to say to that, didn't have words for the weight of it, so she just shook Torres's hand, held it for a moment, then walked away. Outside, the sky was clear, cold, winter settling in. She pulled her jacket tighter, the same one she'd worn that night in the elevator, faded now, worn thin in places, but still hers, still holding. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She smiled, answered. Connolly. A woman's voice, young, scared, trying to hide it and failing. Miss Connolly? My name is Private First Class Emma Reeves. I was given your number by someone who said you help people like me. What happened? I reported something bad, something that shouldn't be happening, and now they're trying to bury it. Bury me. I've been threatened. My commanding officer told me to recant my statement or face charges for making false accusations. Sarah leaned against her car, closed her eyes. Here we go again. Where are you? Fort Carson, Colorado. Okay, I'm going to help you, but I need you to do exactly what I say. Can you do that? Yes, ma'am. First, start documenting everything. Times, dates, names, every threat, every conversation. Get it all down. Don't trust your memory. Write it. Record it if you can do it safely. I already have some of it. Good. Send it to me, encrypted. I'll send you instructions on how. What if they come after me before you get here? What if they won't? Because you're not alone anymore. You understand? You're not fighting this by yourself. Sarah heard the woman's breath hitch, then steady. The fear still there, but pushed down, controlled. Okay, thank you. Don't thank me yet. This is going to get hard. Harder than you think. They'll dig into your past. They'll try to discredit you. They'll make you doubt yourself. Doubt whether speaking up was worth it. Will it be? Worth it? Sarah thought about Rourke, about Hall, about Tran, who'd survived but would never be the same, about Corbett and Briggs rotting in federal prison, about Site 17 reduced to dirt and empty desert, about Torres walking out of that courtroom free, vindicated. Yeah, she said quietly. It will be. Okay? Then I'm ready. Good. I'll be there in 2 days. Until then, stay visible. Stay around people. Don't be alone if you can help it. I won't. Sarah hung up, stood there for a moment, looking at the courthouse behind her, the sky above, the road ahead. She thought about the girl she used to be, the one who just wanted to finish her shift and go home, who wanted to be invisible, safe, quiet. That girl was gone, had died somewhere between the elevator and the courtroom, between the moment she'd been grabbed and the moment she'd decided to grab back. And in her place was someone harder, sharper, someone who'd learned that silence was complicity, that looking away was surrender, that the only way to stop the cycle was to stand in front of it and refuse to move. Someone who'd learned that being underestimated wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning. The moment when you stopped waiting for someone else to save you. The moment you saved yourself. And maybe, if you were lucky, you saved a few others along the way. She got in her car, started the engine, pulled up directions to Colorado. It was a long drive. 14 hours if she pushed it. 16 if she stopped for sleep. She'd make it in 12. Because somewhere out there, Private First Class Emma Reeves was sitting in a barracks room, terrified, wondering if she'd made a mistake, wondering if anyone would actually come, if anyone actually cared, and Sarah was going to show her the answer was yes. She pulled onto the highway. The city disappeared behind her. Ahead, the road stretched into darkness. But she wasn't afraid of the dark anymore. Hadn't been for a long time. She'd learned to see in it, to move through it, to find the truth hiding in the shadows and drag it into the light where everyone could see, where it couldn't hide, where it had to answer for itself. And she'd keep doing it, for as long as it took. For as long as people like Emma Reeves needed someone who understood, someone who'd been exactly where they were, someone who'd survived and come out the other side not broken, but forged, tempered, ready. Because this was who she was now. Not a victim, not a hero, just someone who refused to quit, someone who'd learned that being underestimated wasn't the end. It was ammunition. It was the moment when your enemies made their fatal mistake, when they looked at you and saw nothing, saw weakness, saw someone they could push around. And by the time they realized they were wrong, it was too late. You'd already won. The highway stretched ahead, empty, quiet. Sarah turned up the radio, let the music fill the silence, and drove toward another fight, another case, another person who needed to know they weren't alone, that speaking up mattered, that truth mattered, that they mattered. She drove through the night, stopped once for gas and coffee that tasted like burnt rubber, kept going. The sun rose somewhere over Kansas, pink and gold spreading across the horizon, beautiful in a way that made her chest ache. She thought about all the sunrises she'd seen. In Helmand Province, watching the desert light up while waiting for the next casualty. In hospital parking lots after 16-hour shifts. In courtrooms after sleepless nights preparing testimony. In safe houses while waiting for the next threat. This one felt different, not peaceful. She didn't think she'd ever feel peaceful again, but purposeful. Like she was exactly where she needed to be. Doing exactly what she was supposed to do. She reached Fort Carson by noon. Met Reeves at a coffee shop off base. The young woman was exactly what Sarah expected. Early 20s, uniform pressed, eyes tired but determined, scared but not backing down. Sarah ordered coffee, sat across from her. Tell me everything. Reeves did. A program. Unauthorized testing of new equipment on soldiers without proper protocols, safety violations. Cover-ups when things went wrong. Injuries dismissed as training accidents. Reeves had seen the truth, had reported it. And now she was paying the price. Sarah listened, took notes, asked questions. When Reeves finished, Sarah sat back. Okay, here's what we're going to do. She laid it out, step by step. Document everything. File formal complaints through multiple channels. Get legal representation. Prepare for the long fight, because it would be long. It would be ugly, but it would be worth it. Reeves listened, nodded. Some of the fear in her eyes eased, not gone, but manageable. You really think we can win this? Sarah thought about the elevator, about the trial, about Site 17, about every fight she'd been in where people told her she couldn't win, that she should give up, that she was in over her head. Yeah, she said, I do. Because they're going to underestimate you. They're going to think you're just some scared kid who'll fold under pressure. And when they realize you won't, when they realize you've got backup and documentation and people who believe you, it'll be too late. They'll have already made their mistakes, and we'll use every single one against them. Reeves smiled, small, uncertain, but real. I'm glad you're here. So am I. They worked late into the night, building the case, gathering evidence, preparing statements. By the time Sarah left, the foundation was solid. Reeves had what she needed to fight, and Sarah had another case, another battle, another chance to make sure the people who thought they could operate in the shadows learned they were wrong. 6 months later, the commander who'd threatened Reeves was relieved of duty. The program was shut down. Formal investigations were opened. Reeves was vindicated, protected, safe. Sarah watched it happen from a distance, didn't need to be there, didn't need the credit, just needed to know it worked. That night, she sat in her apartment, quiet, alone. Thought about how many more cases there would be, how many more Emma Reeveses were out there right now, how many people were being silenced, dismissed, erased. The number was overwhelming, impossible. But she'd stopped thinking about the impossibility a long time ago, stopped thinking about winning every fight. Because you couldn't. Some you lost. Some people couldn't be saved. Some truths stayed buried. But the ones you could save, the ones you could help, the truths you could drag into the light, those mattered. Those were worth every sleepless night, every threat, every moment of doubt. Her phone buzzed. Text from Wallace. 3 new cases. Need you on the first one ASAP. Facility in Montana. Possible human experimentation. Sarah looked at the message, felt the familiar pull, the exhaustion, the weight, but also the purpose. The certainty that this was what she was meant to do, who she was meant to be. She typed back, send the files, I'm in. She stood, walked to the window, looked out at the city, at all those lives stretching to the horizon. Most of them would never know her name, would never know what she did, what she fought for. And that was fine. Better even. Because this wasn't about recognition, wasn't about being seen. It was about making sure others were seen, the ones everyone else looked past, the ones deemed expendable, forgettable, worthless. She'd been there, in that elevator, dismissed, underestimated, treated like nothing, and she'd learned something in that moment that changed everything. Being nothing meant you had nothing to lose. And people with nothing to lose were the most dangerous kind, because they'd already survived the worst, already been to the bottom, and they knew the only way left to go was up. Sarah Connolly had spent 3 years trying to disappear, trying to be invisible, trying to forget. And in one night, in one elevator, 2 men had taken that away from her, had forced her back into the light, had made her fight. She'd hated them for it, for a long time. But now, looking back, she understood. They'd given her something. Not intentionally, not willingly. But they'd shown her who she really was. Not a victim, not someone to be dismissed, but someone who fought back, someone who won, someone who refused to let the bastards grind her down. And every time she helped someone like Emma Reeves, every time she exposed another program, every time she stood in another courtroom and watched justice happen, she proved it again. To herself. To them. To everyone who thought people like her didn't matter. They were wrong. And she'd spend the rest of her life making sure they knew it. The end.